y'all. Hey.
Hey.
Look, we are back with episode 2 of season 2. Episode 2 double.
Yes.
Look, last episode we talked about we addressed the charge of motherhood from season 1.
Yes.
And we talked about what it's like parenting our now adults because many of our children are adults. And so, Lisa, we spent a lot of time patting ourselves on the back.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
You're excellent.
Oh, come here. I got to yes.
But baby, let's tell the truth and shame the devil. Let's tell the truth
and shame the
devil.
Because
these people, we'll get some little hate mail. Y'all was not that good of parents. I know your son. Okay. I remember what your son had.
Your daughter did this.
Let me tell you something. Now one of you little girls try to get in our little comments and tell us nothing about our sons.
Our daughters.
Or our daughters. You better not. Anyway. But
what are we talking about?
We ain't do everything right, boo.
No.
We ain't do everything right.
No.
And so we don't beat ourselves up, but we recognize.
Yeah, absolutely.
That we didn't do everything right,
absolutely,
right?
We do.
So I think.
And I think that's real and that's true,
that's
right?
Real.
You got to be real with yourself.
Because there is no. People say this all the time. It's so cliche. Ugh, barf. But there is no handbook.
There is no handbook. There's no manual, right?
For parenting.
There is not.
You don't know. You don't know I feel like I don't know the things I did wrong, and now my kids are adults, and I'm kind of like,
yeah,
you have that issue because of me.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm real with it. I'm such a self-reflector, and I thank God for that because I don't, throw things off on people. I'm very real with you are this way because of the way you were parented.
Absolutely.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so let me start this off.
Liz, let's talk about the realness in parenting, right?
So, like, there is, if you've watched season 1, you know I'm from nothing. Black girl from Decatur, West Greater. Right? Like I'm going to always say that because I'm proud of that.
Yes.
Like, I am proud of who I am,
as you
right?
Should be.
And I want to say there was a clip out there where I was saying that I was embarrassed about being poor. I say, like, I was poor, and I'm like, this is so embarrassing. And so a couple people were like, well, you shouldn't be embarrassed because that's who you were. And I'm like, well, no, it's not. I wasn't embarrassed about being poor because that's real, right? Like, that's real. That's a real stage of my life. Like, I'm not poor now. Oh, thank you, Jesus.
Okay.
But I was. I was. And so I wasn't having to come to terms with what that looked like was embarrassing to me. It's not, you people can say all day, like, I'm from nothing. What does I'm from nothing look like? Does it look like, people talk about, oh, you slept on an air mattress. There was no air mattress. Oh, you did, whatever. Like, absolutely. Coming to terms with what poverty really is, because people think of poverty very differently. And so for me, it was getting evicted 3 times in a year, right? It was having to live on what was effectively a college dorm when I was 27, right? It was having to send my children to live with their paternal grandmother because I could not make it. And so that's what poverty looked like for me. And let me tell you something.
Tell them.
It was way worse than that. Like, that's the stuff I'm willing to talk about on this podcast. But poverty was it wasn't pretty.
It wasn't pretty.
And so, and having raised my children, like, and what's so funny is we did all right? Like, I had no bad job, but I wasn't really making no money. I like my job. I like the flexibility, the freedom of my job, right? And so I was able to do certain things with my children. I was able to always be there at school. I dropped my kids off at school every morning, able to interact with their teachers, able to do those things, be at every, concert, every award ceremony. I didn't have to miss anything. I was able to take them on vacation, spring break. So we had those things, right? Like, we had... just outside, like, my kids wore uniforms to school, so it was, and not the real uniforms, it was like the ones that you could buy from Target. So I didn't have to worry about, and God kept them because I didn't have to worry about not having money for really nice clothes for them because they didn't do that at their school. And they would have maybe 5 free dress days like a year when they were younger. And so I could afford to buy 5 nice outfits and 2 really nice pair of shoes. And that's kind of what we did or whatever. And so, and their biological father was a barber, so he did that. I could do my baby's hair, and my best friend was a hairstylist. So things they didn't. When people see this, when people from my past and from where they grew up in the school that they attended, when they see this, they're going to be shocked because no one knew.
No one knew.
No one
I definitely
knew.
wanted to add that you wore it, the struggles that you're expressing and explaining to this world right now, being so transparent, you wore it so gracefully.
Because God
you
is
would
good.
not be able to tell.
You
Like,
didn't.
although I might have known a little bit of, you know, you wore it gracefully.
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're good, and I appreciate you. But no one knew, because I wasn't begging. That's not who I was as a person. I made what I had stretching. God is. Y'all know this is a Christian podcast. God is who He says He is.
God is faithful.
And so He kept me. So what I opted to do was, and I talked about this before, you know, I lived in a neighborhood with a good school. And I chose a school where I wanted them to go. I lived in the neighborhood, but I didn't live in the good. So it's a really nice area, really great area. But then there was one street. That's the street I lived on. I'm getting a little bit embarrassed, but that's okay. Because people are living this, and I want to be able to connect, you know?
Absolutely.
But there was one street that where the poor people lived. And I lived on that street. And my kids were none the wiser, because my daughter was a competitive cheerleader. So I was paying like $300 a month for her to cheer. My son did acting and did all the training with that. And so I had money. I made sure I had money for that. My other son played basketball, so he was in every Nike basketball camp. Like I did that, the Junior Hawks or whatever. I made sure I had money for that. They all did. Like Kennedy played the guitar and the piano, and MJ played the piano, and he took voice lessons, and Chris played the drums, and he sang also, and so they had all of that. And then, like I said, we went on spring break vacation every spring break, and I was able to, for a time, send them to their biological or their paternal grandmother in the summer. So they had that. And so, you know, I made sure that we did things on the weekends, and they, like I said, when they would dress nice when it was time to dress nice, and they were always well groomed and always. So we didn't look the part, and I made sure, but it was because when everybody else was paying, and this was years ago, was paying like $1,500 for rent, I was paying $700. Like, God blessed me. I spent $750. My rent never went up for 7 years I lived in that place. It never went up, but that's God.
That's God.
You know?
Yes, it is.
So I was able to take my paycheck and I knew I couldn't live anywhere else for that amount. And so, it was a 2-bedroom townhouse. I don't have the courage to go into what that looked like, but it was a very small, weird situation, but it was fine. Like, so my kids didn't feel like, oh my gosh, we're poor. Like, they always wanted friends to come over. Like, they always wanted friends to come over. And I was just like, no. And so what I would do is I would take their friends out. So like, my daughter had a really good friend, and and I never wanted my kids to spend the night anywhere, because what would happen, Lisa, when your kids spend the night, they want to spend the night with you.
Yes.
And so I'm like, I don't want to open that door. Because no one can come here.
Yes.
And so like, my daughter always had the biggest parties. I'm a party. Y'all know I do a party. So she always had these huge parties. Like, we would rent out the presidential suites of hotels, and we would have these parties for her. So they didn't miss out on things. Like, my sons always had, you know, whatever parties they wanted. One year, Chris wanted to go and see wrestling, and we took his friends wrestling, and they were paintball and skating. So they had things. I don't want to, but it was because my rent was $700.
Yes.
So I was able to do that.
Yes.
But that's how I entertained. So if my kids were like, oh, I want to hang out with somebody, I would say, well, let's go skating. Let's go to the movies. Like, it would not be
So you would take them out more.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I thought raising them, they were still having those experiences. And I let them to go to birthday parties and things like that. And sometimes I would let them spend the night, you know. But I never let anybody come pick up. I would always be the drop-off mom, or the meet you there mom, and whatever. And now my kids don't have any childhood friends.
Okay.
And so they have friends who have childhood friends who can say, like, oh, I knew him from pre-K, or I knew him. And it wasn't because we moved. I stayed in that place for 7 years. My kids, literally, Kennedy was with the same group of friends from pre-K until she was in the 10th grade. She actually moved because we moved and we bought a house.
Yes.
But it wasn't like, oh, they moved around. Even when we moved, even when I got remarried and we moved, I drove an hour every morning to get them to school for like a year and a half, because I did not want to take them from their friends. But they don't have childhood friends, because when they were little, I was too embarrassed to bring people to my house. And so like I said, I would do that. Yeah. But like, that's not how friendships are made. Friendships are not made at the mall. Friendships are not made at Six Flags and, the park or whatever. Friendships are made when y'all are laying around doing nothing, talking about stuff,
watching movies,
you know, just chilling. It's not the event. That's like her relationships, marriages, you know, dating.
Yes,
that's not made in the events. It's made in those moments where y'all are just laid back,
establishing.
And so, because everything, and I thought I was doing the right thing. This is not like, I thought I was doing the right thing.
Yes.
And, okay, you want to hang out, I'll let you hang out.
Yes,
but I want to make a friend. And so now, like, Kennedy has one best friend from the 8th grade, but by the time she was in 8th grade, I was living somewhere different, and I was letting people come to my house.
Yes.
And so, but she has one best friend, but she doesn't. They don't have these lifelong friends, and guess what? They want that. So they're not even on some like, I'm good. I mean, they're good. They're great.
Yeah.
But like, they've
acknowledged it.
They talk about
it. They talk about it.
And so I look at my hand in it. I was so embarrassed. I cared so much about what people thought. Yeah. That I robbed my children of a childhood experience, and that has shaped who they are as adults. And so in that, they don't have those relationships because I was embarrassed, you know? And so if I could go back, I would have said, like, I would have had more confidence.
Yeah.
I would have looked at my kids and said, you know, hey, you want to clean up, right? Like, we already live in a weird space. But I have what I have, and I don't have what I don't have, and I don't try to pretend. And let me tell you something. I said that to them all the time growing up. We have what we have. We don't have what we don't have, and we don't try to pretend. The whole time I was pretending.
Keep it real.
No, and
right?
I never told anyone I lived in a different. I wasn't doing that. But people, when they looked at us, they
you
thought
would not be able to tell.
They thought, because I'm gonna have the designer bag. I always had hair to my butt.
Absolutely.
I always did because I saved my money. Like, I was really strategic in the way that I did things. You know,
you knew what you wanted.
Yes,
right?
And people didn't even know I was a single parent because my kids were so great and they were so well parented. And I'm not. Last episode, Lisa, you said something about your kids' father. I don't have that to say about their biological father. I do not. He did not help me parent them. He was there. He would, you know, hang out sometimes. But he didn't help me pay. That thing was me and God. And my mom was instrumental. She was there to help me when I went to law school. She was there to get them to after school and stuff like that. But
for the most part, it was all you.
That was me.
All you.
And so people did not think that you would never know because they were talented. They were so talented. And the school would call, like, my kids, they would get paid by their elementary school to perform at events. Wow. Literally, because they were so talented, excellent, you know, and so artistic. But we didn't, it wasn't always pretty. And so, but if I had just owned that, if I had just said, like, okay, this is where we are. We have what we have. We don't have what we don't have. We don't try to pretend. Yes, little Johnny can come over. Right, but I was just so afraid little Johnny was gonna come over and talk about my house and you know, or whatever. So I just
and then I think that with you doing that, you felt the need to protect your children too, because although they live this lavish, whatever, we don't want to say lavish, but nice wealth lifestyle, what it looked like, you did not want anybody to come home to your environment and then go back and take that and then have your kids feel some type of
Yep. And that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
but then what does that feed into now?
Yeah.
You
absolutely.
know, and so I think I would have done it differently. I don't think, I mean, maybe I could have had more faith and maybe I could have had more. I don't know, but I think I would have done it differently.
Yes, I get that.
And another thing I did, and I say this to parents who want their children to be excellent, because this is a fake parenting podcast.
I love it.
Another thing I did, and I feel like we're moving so fast, but I got so much to say.
We are, though, and it's good. I love it.
Another thing I did, and I did a lot of things right, but I did this wrong. I pushed my kids too hard.
That's a good one.
And I didn't give them space to make mistakes. Like, literally.
I see it in you, and I think the world would see it in you, because anything is, we're excellent.
We are excellent.
I'm excellent, okay? And so I know that you instilled that excellence.
To their detriment.
Let's talk about it.
I will say to their detriment, because my kid, I would let them do anything they want to do. Chris want to play the drums, you can play the drums. Kennedy want to play the guitar, you can play the guitar. But you gonna practice that thing. What you not gonna do is have me spending my money that I'm having to scrape around to spend and not practice this stuff. So growing up, my house was always full of music because them brothers was practicing. You hear me?
I know,
it's
right.
cute though, because Chris was telling me the other day, when I have kids, I'm gonna make sure they do whatever, because he loves music now. He says that. He's like, I love music because there was always music in our house.
Oh, I love
and it was music they were making. It wasn't music that I put on the radio.
Oh, wow.
They were making music, and I would sit on the steps of our little townhouse and listen to them make music, and that thing was beautiful.
Sounds joyful.
So I will say this. I'm about to get emotional and I feel weird.
No, don't make me
cry.
I'm remembering
that. I'm remembering it was so like we didn't have the best life like financially, but the love
the joy, right?
And I would just sit and they would make music, and that is a part of their childhood. But they did the music was genuine, but it was them. They couldn't make mistakes.
Yeah,
I was so hard on them, Lisa. And so, because I'm like, if you're going to do it, you're going to be excellent.
Yes.
In school, in
anything,
everything.
whatever
like,
it
you're
is
gonna
that you
be
do.
excellent. You're not turning in trash from this. I remember when Kitty was in 3rd grade. And that girl been bad.
Okay.
But they had to do the teachers gave them a sheet that looked like them, like an outline of their bodies.
Okay.
And you had to do the dimensions or whatever.
Okay.
You color it, do whatever you should do. It's for math. So Kennedy comes home with this sheet, and I was like, what you want to do with it? And so Kennedy's favorite artist at the time was Romare Bearden. My child was 8 years old knowing Romare Bearden. So she was like, I want to make the skin brown, but I want to do it like Romare Bearden. So we couldn't just color the skin. We had to get magazines and cut out little brown. As if you know Romare Bearden, you'll know his style.
Okay.
So we had lots of little bitty pieces of magazines on Kennedy's 8-year-old body, and I put brown skin, and then I put a skirt. And so when I look back, I'm like, we could have put that child on some jeans
to cover it all up.
But she wore a skirt, and she had weave in her hair, and then a handbag and sunglasses. And so when I walked it in, and Kennedy had done everything. It wasn't even on.
And
so
if you do it, you're gonna do it with perfection.
Yes. The teacher was like, I expected nothing less than you walking in here with this doggone thing. So everybody else just had plain pictures with their thing. I mean, it had nothing on it. Kennedy's was all decked out. So the next year was so funny. I'm walking down the hall and I see the projects. All the projects were done like Kennedy's had been done. But you set a standard.
Oh my goodness.
You set a standard. But that was what they did. They set the standard. And so,
yes.
But now, and I'm glad that my children are excellent and they strive for excellence. Kennedy, who is in culinary school, my baby is a pastry chef.
Oh my goodness. She's doing her thing.
But that baby will beat herself up. And it isn't, I have to tell Kennedy, like, boo, like, it's okay to make mistakes. But see, the children aren't going to be the children you raise. Like, as adults, they're going to be who you raised.
For the most part.
And for the most part.
For the most part.
Right? And so I raised you to, no, this is not good enough. And what's weird was I never was telling my kids, you're not good enough. It wasn't. It wasn't all that. It was just kind of like, no, do this again.
Yeah.
No, try harder.
Yeah.
You can do better.
This is what I see.
You can do better than this. And I know you're better. Like, that's what it was. It wasn't even, like, I don't want you guys to get that I was some like mommy dearest,
discounting them or discrediting them.
It was, is this your
talents,
best? Baby, I know you could do better. It was the encouraging type of thing, but it was like nothing is good enough for real. And so now you're at school, and if you make a mistake, you're calling me crying, and I'm like, baby girl, people make mistakes.
Yes.
It is okay to make a mistake, and having to like have her unlearn that. And it's just like, and even with the boys, it's like, I want to be excellent. And I'm just, I appreciate your desire for excellence. But if people make, and the word of God says, all things will work together for your good. Right? Like if you're called, if you love the Lord and are called according to his purpose, all things work for your good, even your mistakes. And that's what I try to tell them when they come and they're like so broken. I'm like, the reason it says all things is because you're not going to be perfect.
Yes.
Right? And so even God said, I will even use your mistakes to work for your good. And so I'm trying to now.
Yes.
Which is what I should have done 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm trying to now, when they come with mistakes, I'm like, well, let's look watch how God going to use this.
Yes.
Because he said all things, not some things, not the things that you get right. He said, let me be God in this situation.
Yes.
So you've made what you think is a mistake, but watch how I work this thing out. And so that's where I try. And they come with a little struggle. And I say, baby, they come ask me to pray for them, and I'm praying for them, but I'm like, you this has to work for your good because the Bible is true.
The Bible is true.
The Bible is true. And it's so, and I will say that Kennedy is getting unwired. She called me even yesterday. I was like, Mom, guess what? I locked my keys in my room. So in her dorm. And she's like, she's living in a townhouse on the campus or whatever. She's like, I locked my keys in my room. And I was just like, well, I have all my stuff. Like the way she had all her stuff. She's able to go to class. She said when she came out of school, when she came out, she went to the appropriate people and they're like, oh, then they couldn't find the key to get in her room. It was a whole thing. And she said, Mom, I was good. Like I made this mistake. People are running around because of me. And she said they couldn't find the key and they were stressing out. And I told them, take your time. I'm fine. And so to hear my child, she was so proud to tell me like, I conquered this. Like I made a mistake. I could have been beating myself up. But what's so funny is she's coming into this on her own. I will say, I mean, I talk to her and I help her, but 2 months ago, she made a grave mistake. She was at her externship at this really ritzy place and she left the steak tartare out. Honey, I'm from Decatur, Georgia. I don't know what steak tartare is. But she called me. She's like, Mom, it's so expensive. And I left out like thousands of dollars worth of it overnight. And they had to toss it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She was like, she said she cried all night. And I was like, boo, you were not the first person to have messed up some steak tartare. I promise you that.
Absolutely.
And what does the word of God say? I said, all you can do is go to work, apologize, and go on. But that's it. And so she's just like, I cannot make this. And it was a big, like it's thousands of dollars. She got to work and the guy was like, yeah, it happens.
Just like that.
It happened because people recognize that people are just people. But I firmly believe that if I had given her space to make a mistake, she would not be so hard on, because like Kennedy is hard on herself. And she's, like I said, she's coming out of it, but where she'll like break out.
Okay, just the stress.
And it's stress that she's imposing on herself because she just wants to be so perfect. And so because this is a parenting podcast, I do say like, allow your children to make mistakes.
Absolutely.
Like because that's how they learn. Like honestly, it's how you learn.
Yes.
And it's because I make a mistake even in my job, even my line of work. I'm like, this is a law firm. You can't make mistakes, you whatever. And the whole time I make a mistake and I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh. But I would not have learned this but for the mistake. So, and I'm not saying allow your children to be careless. But when they make a mistake, explore other. Look, I don't really know what to tell you how to do because I ain't do it. But I can say that, it just... she would be different. She'd have more confidence, I think. Because if she had been taught the lesson that you learn from mistakes and you can only go up from here, like, hey, you messed this one up, right? And so, but if she had been taught that you can learn from it, then maybe she would see every mistake as like an opportunity to grow. And I will say, I'm remembering now, when she became a baker, she first learned how to do that from a mistake. And so I guess that wasn't all bad. But I remember when she was 9 years old, she wanted to make banana nut muffins. And I get her the stuff to make them, because whatever you want to do, you can do it in my little bitty, postage stamp kitchen. I get her the stuff to make the muffins, and she puts salt instead of sugar in the recipe. So when she was so proud, oh my gosh, she was so proud. She's such a little girl. She was so proud of them. They came out the oven, and I will never forget this. She said, she's like, it's too salty. Kennedy a crybaby, y'all. Kennedy is a crybaby.
Sound like an auntie at this point.
So she was broken down. So I said, oh my God, baby, it's okay. And I didn't I was like, but boo, guess what? We have more ingredients. You can make some more, And so she made them and turned out great. The end of it, she's a wonderful pastry chef. But so I guess there were times, but that was exploring. I think there was when you're exploring and you make mistakes, whatever. But I felt like when grades were on the line, when you have a talent show coming up, or you better show up.
Yes.
You better show up.
If you're prepared for it, then you better show up and show out.
And so. It just made them really, really cautious people about messing up. And so I would have I would have introduced them to the beauty of mistakes very, very early, because there is beauty in making mistakes, because you now get to make it right. And then you have your testimony. Then you have your lesson to someone else. Where when someone else makes a mistake and they're beating themselves up, you have the, I did that, or did something similar. And you're able to, and it's about community. It's about people growing, and you have the ability to help entire people grow because you grew, from that mistake. It's not like, I'm not saying like let your kids make mistakes and let them be. I'm saying let them make mistakes and teach them what it looks like to learn, from those mistakes. And so those are some parenting things that I do think I'm not going to pretend for y'all. I was an excellent mom. I was. Yes. But there were things that I wish I had done differently. Absolutely. And I think that it would have shaped them. But all things, right? And so even to myself, I say, like, I don't beat myself. I think about it. I don't even want to say I have regrets. I think about it and I'm like, I did that to you. And I tell my kids, I'm like, you're like this because of your mother. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, this is like, I didn't give you space to make mistakes, or I didn't, whatever it may be. It's like, I made you this person. And so I'm sorry that I made you this person, right? And so let's see what we can do in your adulthood to address that. And to, seek God, because I believe that, God is a bondage breaker. So you don't have to be this person because you were raised, if we can pinpoint it and we can, can work it out or whatever. And so, but those were things that I'm like, I just wish I had done that differently. And as we talk, I might interject. I might have some. It's fine. Some other that you think about, right? That I think that I made my children care too much about what people think.
You think? I can't see that.
And let me say this. I think they're grown. Like, they are grown now. And I think I've undone it quite a bit. Okay. Because when I realized it, I was like, oh, this is a problem. And this is on your mama. And so I realized it a couple of years ago, and I started correcting that thing. Okay. But I would do things like this, as my mama did it to me. If I was proud of something they did, I would say, what did everybody say? Okay. Not even like you should, but it would be like, how did everyone react? Yeah. You got a new, if you got a new bag or you got a new hairstyle, did your friends love it? Yeah. Who freaking cares?
I like that one.
But I used to do that. Like, what did your teacher say? Was yours the best in the class? Like, it was always a comparison. And so it made them care about what other people thought. Yes. And so I realized it in myself, and then I realized it in my kids. And so, and I've gone to them independently and said, like, hey, like, this was not okay. We don't care what people think. If no one thinks your shoes are fresh, no one thinks your hair is cute, if no one thinks your project is good, what do you think? And so now I will say I have been successful because I was purposeful in correcting that. But I think you have to be careful about the things that you say and the effect it has. You're not even, because like I said, I wasn't thinking that I'm training my kids to care what people think. I'm like praising you, like, honey, I know you bad. Yes, I know everybody was looking at you.
Everybody has something to say.
That's what I'm thinking. Yes. Whole time it's making you conscious
like,
of,
what did they say?
Yeah, like, right. Wait, if I do this and I get no reaction,
this may be a problem.
Right. Versus like some people are haters for real. Right. Whatever. Or guess what? Some people aren't paying me any attention, and that's okay too. Like, I have to be okay with the decision I made to do this thing and go forward. And so that's a thing that just be, like I said, I wasn't on purpose trying to make them do that, but I'm thinking I'm praising you whole time. It's like, a problem. And so that's a thing that I wish I had done differently. But like I said, I was able to catch it, so I don't feel like they care so much about people. I can tell they don't, because
no, that's what I'm saying. No, they're very confident. They are their own individuals. Own styles. Anything I can't see that. So I think that you did some great reshaping.
Yep.
You noticed it. Yeah, owning. And I think that's definitely the key. What you just said, owning up to your responsibilities, or holding yourself accountable. Right. The situations that you've created that you felt may not have been for the better good of your children. Right. Once you own it and present it, I think you're in a good space. Yeah. And so that was very transparent. Very transparent.
The poverty thing.
Whew. God, very, very transparent. And very, very deep. Very deep. I understand
it
all.
What would you have done better?
Before I even say what I've done better, I was just sitting here listening to you talk to Kennedy, talk about Kennedy. And I recall and remember a situation that all of us were together in that we had. But what resonated with me was that she is her mama all the way. Like, if you're telling me that she beats herself up because she might mess up in certain things while she's cooking or whatever she's doing, she may beat herself up a little bit. She's so genuine to anyone else that comes around her, just like you were just explaining that you did to her. She's so genuine if anybody else messed up around her. I remember when we took them to the concert to go see The Weeknd. Okay.
Lisa lost her car.
You brought don't do that. You brought Kennedy up in this, and I have to give Kennedy her flowers, or just let you know that is your child, because exactly what you were explaining is the love and the genuine care that I felt from her in that moment. So don't say Lisa lost her car. Okay.
Tell the story, Lisa.
Okay. The car, I drove to the concert to meet them. And the plan was to bring them back home, right, as a family together. That was the plan. And it happened.
It did happen. I got home safe and sound. Thank you, Lisa.
Absolutely. You're welcome. But of course, if anybody knows Alisa is time management, and she's pretty much rushing to get where she needs to go. So
every time.
So I parked. Don't know where I parked, but I parked, and we went to the concert, had a wonderful time. Oh my gosh.
Shout out to The Weeknd for putting on a good show.
It was a great time. It was just me. It was Crystal and I, and then the girls were separate. We were in the SunTrust, doing our own thing. Yeah. And the girls were sitting floor seats.
They had floor seats. We were in the Truist Lounge.
And the Truist Lounge, yes. So we were vibing. So it come time to end, and we have to locate the girls. So we're swinging around the State Farm building at this point. Okay, we're not nowhere near where we parked. Or don't remember at this
Mercedes.
point.
It was Mercedes.
It was Mercedes. My bad. Okay, my bad. Thank you for correcting me. It was Mercedes.
Yes.
Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and we are trying to find the girls. So we finally find them, and we have made circles around the stadium.
My feet were hurting.
Literally made circles. Okay, so we find them, and now it's time to get back to the car. And Jesus was with me, and Kennedy was with me, okay?
Jesus and Kennedy.
Jesus and Kennedy.
Right-hand girl.
Okay. I literally, honestly could not find my car.
I kept calling her a child all night. I was like, you are a child.
She was so upset with me. Okay, she was so upset with me, but I literally rushed in the building. And so I felt like I remembered the vicinity that we was at, like the area. So I was close.
Didn't. Long story short, she didn't.
I was very close.
I'm getting mad again.
We did. Don't get mad again. That is the past.
Go ahead. Tell your story.
We did some walking. Thankfully, it wasn't, the weather wasn't bad or anything, but we did some walking.
There was a lot of walking.
It was a lot of walking.
This girl said we did some walking.
It was not that bad, but it was probably about about 10, 15 minutes of trying to search for my car.
Lisa!
What? It was longer than that.
It was like 30 minutes.
It was 30?
It was literally like 30 minutes. I want y'all to know that it was like 30 minutes. Go ahead.
Anyway, forget all that, right? So we did end up finding the car, but during the whole process of it all, my sister was upset. Like her feet was hurting. She's definitely used to VIP status. Like somebody's pulling up on her, and she's having to walk to a car. So you already know I was getting all kinds of attitude. But while she was giving this attitude, my niece was right by my side. It's okay, Auntie. It's okay. It's fine. We're gonna find the car. So where do she was really trying to walk me through. Now, where do you think the last place was that you seen it? We're gonna get through this. Don't worry about it. Like she was just it's okay to make mistakes. Just so passionate and just so genuine. I felt all the love from her in that moment. And I think,
yes.
That was you to her.
Right.
That was you to her. Like
yes.
That just when you said that, it kind of resonated with me. Like
I remember
Kennedy.
That night.
Yes, you did. Don't look at me like that.
I had to walk in my
Don't look at me like that.
On the Atlanta streets.
Listen, let's don't drag this conversation more, because I will say something to you about having to walk in your socks, because I'm not going to do it though.
What? Tell me. Let's be transparent here, sister.
In front of the world. Let's just be transparent. Because that's what we do and that's who we are. Why would we not? Because I'm going to get you because you want to get up here and show this little attitude in front of the world and let them know that you was mad and then let them know that you had to walk in your barefoot. Well, you know what I was saying in my head? I said, well, why you got to walk barefoot? You got these designer shoes on and you paying all this money for these designer shoes on your feet and you got to take them off?
Look, and gave them away. Have since given those shoes away.
Your feet should be fine. You should be sliding in them shoes.
Look, the whole time feet hurting.
Feet hurting, right?
Feet hurting. Oh, God.
I love it. No, oh, my gosh.
Funny. Yes, those I don't have those shoes anymore.
No, okay. You passed those down, right? I think,
yes, I give it to Dallas. I honestly, if my feet had not been hurting, I would have been in a better mood. But I'm glad that Kennedy did that for you.
Yes, I will always remember that moment.
Kennedy's great, right?
She is excellent.
She's really great.
She is excellent for real. She really is.
Okay.
But yeah. So
what would you have done? I know you're perfect. You've done a great job. I've met your children.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
But differently.
What would I have done differently? I would to start off with, and I have to be okay. I have to be transparent too here. But to start off with, I would say, I don't believe that I was all the way there for my oldest two children, and I was there, right now.
You were in the home.
I was in the home. They can come talk to me. I made sure that they had whatever it is that they needed. They were in activities, sports. But during my times of raising them, I was so involved in making money and getting money and growing. Really in hustle status, right? And some of it wasn't like just, oh, I'm just in hustle status. I have to have a couple of different careers to be successful. It was just a job that just slaved me, you know, and there was just no way out. And I just had to do what I had to do. So while I was raising them during their childhood years, I worked a lot, dreadfully a lot, where now I'm looking back and I'm like, I spent a lot of my time working. Like, I know I could have given them more time. I know I could have given them more time. And so I beat myself up, you know, because of that. You know, that really hurts that I was not able to give them as much time as I can currently give my younger two children. And lifestyles are different. Lifestyles are changing. So like with my daughter, she was in cheerleading and she was in dance. And it started off good because when you're younger, you get to experience your sports like on the weekends. Right. And so I would make myself a little bit more available on the weekends, but on the weekdays were just like tight. I had no space, no room for anything, literally working about 12 to 13 hours a day. So she would have, once she went into high school, which is like her major 4 years, right? She had games where she had to cheer and dance, and I literally missed a lot of those. Like I had to really try to work around to get to her games. So I got to some, but I missed a lot. And because my work schedule always prevailed, it calls for my time management. Still now I struggle with time management, but it still calls for my time management to be a little off too. So even when I made it to her games, it would be a little late. I was never on time. You know, I just was never on time. So I know that set with her. And I remember a time where she was on her dance team and they had to travel. So they traveled to, I think either Savannah or Macon, Georgia. And it was on the weekend. So I did have time, but I time management still was not on my side. But I did make sure that I was going to go. And so she had to commute on the bus with her team. Right. And so they had to leave early in the morning. I had to drop her off to the school. They left at like 6 a.m. in the morning. And the competition wasn't until like 9 or 10. Or so I had some time to get there. And so she's calling me, like ringing my phone, mommy, make sure you're here. Cause she knows she doesn't want me to miss this one. Like she knows the history. Like my mama sometimes can't show up or she might show up late. And so, you know, she called me to make sure that I was getting there. And when I got there, I'm not even gonna say when I got there. I need to back myself up just a little bit. She was calling me and she was like, Mommy, we're about to go on. And I'm still on my way. Mommy, where are you at? We're about to go on. And I'm like, I'm about to be there, baby. I'm about to be there. I think we might have ran into a little bit of traffic, something. Then had to find a place to park. So I was able to get there when she performed. Like, I seen her perform. But after the show, after the competition, and she came to me and her friends came to me, she told me that she literally was crying that whole time before she performed because she thought that I was not going to make it. That was devastating to me.
And you had not made it because of like work?
Yeah, work, and, time management was preventing me from getting there to where she could see, like, look out, look out and know that, okay, I see my mom in the stands. When she looked out in the stands, she didn't see me.
Your mother.
Yes, she didn't see me. She probably didn't see me until they started performing. So the whole time, her experience is messed up. She can't even get herself together before she performs because she's like, my mom is not here. My mom didn't make it. So if I could turn back the hands of time and parent a little differently, I would say that I should have leaned a little bit more in the faith of God too. Because I was thinking money. I was thinking money.
Right.
That's all I was thinking. Let me make sure my kids are straight. Money. But if I would have just had the faith of God, He would have granted me. He would have just provide whatever the desires of my needs, and I would have been able to just go see my baby, and I would have had no worries about anything else. But at that time, my worry was money.
And how is that different? So you talk about Maya and Elijah. How is that different? Than with the babies now.
Exactly.
Do you find that it's
moving
different?
Forward, so life is different, right? Life is different. I hustled with Amaya and Elijah growing up during their childhood years. I hustled. Now I've gotten to the point of success, and I've gotten to the point where God is real. I'm walking through faith. God has blessed me in so many different angles and levels of my life. I know that there is a God and I rely on Him. I'm at that stage in my life right now to where now when my kids, the luxury and the lifestyle has changed from the time that I raised my oldest to 7-year gap to my younger two.
Stop right there. This is making, I'm listening to you, but I want to think, there is a TikTok.
Yes.
And maybe on Instagram too, but there is a TikTok where they explore what it's like to raise an older child, where there's a huge age gap.
Right?
And they talk about like how the older kids have a much different experience than the younger. Have you seen it?
I think I've run across that.
Well, I'm gonna show. I want to show it.
Let's
on here what that looks like.
Yes.
Because that's what you're describing right now.
That's what I'm talking about.
Let me see if we can get it rolling.
Okay.
2 steps forward if both of your parents are still married. Take 2 steps forward if you grew up with a father figure in the home. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a private education. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a free tutor growing up. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to worry about your cell phone being shut off. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to help mom or dad with the bills. Take 2 steps forward if it wasn't because of your athletic ability, you don't have to pay for college. Take 2 steps forward if you never wondered where your next meal was going to come from.
That was so deep on so many levels.
And
so real. And so real. I got to take a moment of silence and just a deep breath on that because there are a lot of people that really are experiencing that. And I'm talking about it right now. I'm talking, literally can cry right now because kids experience life generationally so different. So different. There are a lot of kids out here. I mean, when they said, takes 2 steps forward when your parents live in the same household. I just thought about Amaya and Elijah.
They don't have it.
Like I left their father. I deprived them, but now the younger two are there with their father. How does that feel to them? That video definitely was sentimental. God. Ashley, God, sis. Don't make me cry. I know we want no tissue. I'm not ready for this. Oh God, I think I know we have an episode coming up when we're talking about crying, because that's a whole nother story in itself. That is a whole nother story. But
you did the best you could.
I did the best that I could, and I'm happy, and my kids are still happy. I'm bringing this up. I'm saying these things, but my kids they might not feel that way.
Right.
You know, they might have been like, "Oh, Mom, that's how you felt. You've given me the world. You've given me everything that you could possibly give me, and I'm so glad and I'm so thankful that you were there for me." You know, they probably are thinking that, but me internally, yeah, I feel like I could have been there a little bit more, you know, for Amaya, definitely so, my oldest girl, and for Elijah. Now, Elijah more so too. So I have, I beat myself up a lot with Elijah because they were born real close together in age, and I was still young. I had Maya at 22. Okay, and they're only a year and a half apart. Okay, just think of me being 22. I definitely don't have it together.
We just talked about this. You're not grown till 26.
Okay,
anyway.
like I do not have it together. Okay, so I guess I would use the word struggle at this point. I struggled with being able to manage two children at the same time, almost cognitively, almost at the same level. No, I don't want to say cognitively at the same level, but age-wise, right? They could learn, they could be in the same bracket or whatnot and learn the same things together. But I had trouble. Amaya was way more attentive. Amaya was ready to learn. Right. I could sit. I lived off of a schedule especially when the kids were younger. You know, it was when there was a time when they ate. There was a time where we did studied, where I pulled out the flashcards, whatever, time to watch TV. Right. And so Elijah was never the one to get on the schedule at all in life, even to this day though. But when they were younger, I could only get Amaya to stay still and listen and eat. And so Elijah was always doing his own thing. He was a great child. Great child. Didn't cry, but he did his own thing. He did what he wanted to do. You know, and so the times where I would sit and I would educate Maya while I pull out the flashcards, Elijah would be playing with his toys and his trucks. And it was a period of time where I'm like, get back over here. Don't you see this is serious? Sit down, sit by your sister. This is what we're going to do. Sit here. It was so many times of that. To one point, I guess, I don't want to say that I gave up, but I didn't want to deprive Amaya either for learning. So I'm like, okay, he's not ready yet. So let me just focus on Amaya. Let me teach her. Let me give her all the things that I'm trying to teach her right now. And if he's content with playing with the cards while I'm doing this, then that's what it is. But I've realized that, and maybe that's the reason why he don't even want to go to college, you know, because he's been like that from a baby. You know, he has been like that from a baby. So I feel like I should have taken more time with Elijah, with my oldest boy, and educating him more, giving him his own space where it's just me and him, and not me, him, and Amaya trying to do everything at one time, because apparently he learned differently, or he just moved differently, you know. So I should have been able to give him his own space, and I didn't do that. I was raising two kids together, young, just trying to working and just trying to mesh it all in at once together, and it just didn't work out the way that. Now I look back that I wish that it would have, because I would have given him his own space, his own time, instead of trying to do it all together. And so that is.
But he's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. He is a great kid. You know, he turned out to be very well. He's very vocal. He's very humble.
Respectful.
Very respectful. the teachers, when they call me up, you know, when we have the parent teacher conferences, they have nothing but good things to say about him. They might say, you know what, he don't turn in his homework every day. He not turning his homework, but he is a good. I respect you for what you've done, and how you raised them. They have told me that, and honestly, when I get the calls from the teachers and they're telling me that, I'm just sitting at a wow, because I'm like, but only if I would have just did a little bit more, the response, right? But I get good response. Like, I get good feedback. I get good recognition from a life, because all things through Christ, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, if I could have done things differently, then it definitely would have been those things that I mentioned. And again, just the lifestyle that Amaya and Elijah had and that I have now, they are experiencing it now at an older age. So they're going to get to experience it, right?
There's going to be an element
There's going to be an element of what, you're going to be able to experience it. When we moved into this 8-bedroom home, you know, you're very welcome to come, but it's going to be the younger two's lifestyle.
That live it.
You know, whenever my youngest two come to me now at this point, it's like, oh, mommy, can we have these? Oh, mommy, can I have these V-Bucks? Oh, mommy, can you buy me this online? And I'm like, yeah, baby, sure.
Right.
You know, but of course, you need to argue for it. Of course, you need to give me the who, what, wins, and why. Yeah. Okay, you got to give me all of that.
Right.
You know, but I can do it. You know, I can financially do it.
Right.
So I
without
do
the hustle.
without
and
the
you're
hustle.
working at home right now too, so they have you present.
Oh my God.
all the time.
Thank you for bringing that up. That is another yes, that is so true. So thankful that God grant me, and a lot of us to this day right now, the grace.
If anything came out of COVID,
if anything came out of that pandemic, there are a lot of people now that found a new direction in life, right? That are at home and able to spend time, have a good work-life balance.
Right.
You know, but it's funny though, because the pandemic hit when I was still in my days of stress working. I was working from home, but still working up underneath a whole different role, up underneath other management. I still experienced like detriment during the pandemic, but halfway through it and through the grace of God, he transitioned me and promoted me and gave me the opportunity to be able to establish or get a work-life balance.
Very good.
Yeah. So I think honestly that was through God, because the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, I was still working and slaving, still working and slaving. But now, just to be able to be at home for my kids when they get off of that school bus, I've never been able to experience that at all with raising my kids at all until my youngest 2-3 years from now. So, oh my God, I'm just so thankful to be able to see my children just get off the school bus. I'm so thankful to be able to prepare a meal for them at a decent time.
Because you're going to cook, baby.
Okay, I'm definitely
Lisa is a cooker. She is going to cook dinner.
I be doing my best, all right? Because honestly, I really like...
You really be cooking on Black Girl Tuesdays. I've seen you cook.
Yes, you're right. But the lifestyle is transitioning, because I didn't set the household down, and I'm like, look, those days are over. I'm getting like you. I'm getting a little bougie.
I don't do domestic work.
Okay, I'm going to start hiring a chef.
That's because why not? Because
it's still too much.
It's too much.
You know,
you can't work and make money. I mean, you can't make money and cook.
Yeah,
like, that's not a thing, right?
Exactly.
I'm gonna make money or I'm gonna make food. What y'all want?
I only want one of the two right now, and I want to get the money, and I want to have it catered at this point, because it's a lot of work.
Right.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of cleanup behind it. And of course you got kids. And we talked about that on our last season too, when you got kids and they can clean up for you, right? But it's like you have kids who work, and
they work too.
Just as busy as you are. Right. School is work. Hobby, their activities and all that is work.
Right.
So I don't want to say I dare not put the pressure on my kids, but
you dare not put the pressure on them, for real.
But I dare not put the pressure on my kids when I know that they're going through school, they're having these activities to be successful. Right. They're planning,
and their way of too. Like, they have their own thought process, and they're tired. They're not the same type of tired, but they're tired.
Yes.
And so girl, don't get me started.
Yes, you know, so exactly. So it's just like we're getting to the point now where it's just like Yeah, I cook, but I cook because I really have to cook. We can go out to eat, and we do that at times. Like, we are big outside fast food eaters,
right.
Which we need to cut that down due to health and everything else.
Right.
But we'll eat out from time to time. But for majority of the time, yes, I am cooking unwillingly.
Slaving at the house.
Slaving.
No longer slaving at the job.
Slaving is still in my category of life right now.
Switched over to a different master.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
Look, so y'all know, if you don't know, I practice family law. I don't really talk about my job a ton other than the money. But I practice family law. And so as we're talking about the mistakes that we've made, and like I said, I don't, maybe there are more. Those are the things that stand
just
out
right
to
now,
me.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? As far as, what I could have done, better with my kids. But I practice family law, and I deal with a lot of parents. Like my job is to deal with parents. And so one thing that I have found in situations where divorced parents is that one parent, the parent who doesn't end up with the primary physical custody, bears the burden. It can go a couple of ways, things, but I want to focus on this right here because this has hit home to me in my life, and I've had this discussion. But it's also, I think it's a very serious thing. Sometimes the non-custodial parent is stuck with being at the whims of the other parent. So if the custodial parent, mom or dad, it's at any point the mom or the dad could be like, oh no, I'm going to take you this weekend. It's supposed to be your dad's weekend. Yeah, it's supposed to be your mom's weekend. I'm going to take that, right? And so it begins to build up. Or the custodial parent may build resentment towards the non-custodial parent for whatever reason, right? And then that custodial parent, and I'm going to say something that I don't want to be controversial. This is not a controversial podcast. This is a fake parenting podcast. But a lot of times it's the men. I don't really see, I see my moms, if dad was given primary physical custody for whatever reason, if mom just said, I believe that dad needs to raise the son or whatever, and that son is 17 years old and fighting not to see that mom is on my phone. I'm like, look, he's 17. He can make an election. He doesn't have to see you because that's the law in Georgia, right? But she's like, I will pay you this money for the fight because my child needs to see that I fought for him. When he turns 25, he's not going to think that his mom just up and left. But I see dads, and I don't know how many dads watching this Black Girl podcast. Don't let your kids go. A lot of times dads feel like, oh, when they get older, they're going to understand, they're going to know. And I will say that in my own house. My ex-husband, so he stopped seeing my kids. It was a whole thing. And so I'm not going to get into all of that or whatever. Kudos to him for moving on with his life. But he thought that I didn't prevent him. Let me just real fast, this little piece. Before I met my current husband, my ex-husband never really, he would see them, but it would be on his terms. So he would be like, oh, I don't have any food at my house, so I can't get them. I would buy him food and send it over there. Because I am the mom who wants the kids to have the relationship with, I don't ever want my kids to feel unloved by anybody. So when he wouldn't show up, I wasn't telling them, oh, your dad's with so-and-so. I was like, yo, he has to work. Okay, call me a liar, call me whatever. I don't believe that a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old needs to know the truth. I think they should just know. That's bad parenting. Because what you're showing your kid, you're not showing your kid anything about the dad. What you're showing your kid is that someone doesn't love them. And now they feel a void because they feel like someone doesn't love them. And so I didn't do that to my children, but he would, not have a place to stay. And I'm like, well, I would leave my home. I promise y'all, I would leave my home on the weekends when he would want to see them, and I would go somewhere else so he could have space to see them. I don't have gas. I would put gas in his car. You don't understand. I was doing everything to make sure that my children had this relationship with this man. And then when I got into this new relationship, it was I was doing a lot. It was I'm driving 2 hours in traffic so you could see because you didn't have gas money. It was a lot. Anyway, long story longer, when I got in a new relationship, my kids had never met anybody I dated before my current husband. So they didn't even know I was dating because that's the mama I was. And so when I met my current husband, he was of the position yo, you doing a lot. If this man want to see these kids, he needs to see the kids, whatever. So when I stopped providing the method for him to see his children, he really stopped doing it. It was maybe once or twice a year. And I'll never forget one day he says to me, well, they're going to, he thought I was keeping them. You could come pick these kids up and I need a break. Okay. Let me be clear.
Absolutely.
You could always come get them. But he wasn't driving. We did live an hour and a half apart, but he didn't want to drive or he didn't want to meet me because he'd be like, oh, if I have to do that, I would be stuck in traffic. I'm going to be stuck in traffic with 3 children.
On the
what are you
kids?
talking about? And so you're not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. So I'll never forget, he told me this. And he only said it one time. It's like, well, they'll know when they get older. You could do whatever they'll know when they get older. I want to be very, very, very clear. My children are grown. I don't talk badly about that man. But what they know when they get older is what the truth is, that he did not come around. And so I hear men say, well, I'm not about to fight their mama for them. I'm not about to, whatever. They'll learn when they get older. What are they going to learn is that their daddy didn't come get them. Now, I'm not talking about moms who are actively concealing a location and saying you can't see the kid. I'm not talking about those moms. Like, take them to court, please, and take them to court. For that. But I'm talking about a mom who is like, I'm not going to hand this to you. Fight for your kids. And it's a lot of times when kids, and I see this, kids enter their teenage years and they're like, they have, the parenting time, weekend, every other weekend. I don't want to go to my dad's house because I'd rather do this. I believe you should let kids, if they have a party to go to, do that. I'm not saying that. But they get to the point where they don't want to go see their dad. And for something, maybe something mom said, or for whatever reason. And men just stop. They just stop. A lot of them were just like, okay, well, you don't want to come, you ain't got to come. That's a child. I don't care, 60, that's a child.
Let's keep it real.
And so then you think, oh, well, they'll know when they get older. What they're going to know is that my dad didn't fight for me. What they're going to know is that my dad didn't care enough to make me come. Oh, because you don't want to have to deal with no attitude. Because that's men. Men don't want to have to deal with no attitude. Shut it down real quick. So I'm not going to drag him kicking and screaming to come to my house. Do it.
That's that pride. It sounds like.
That's pride.
That's that pride.
And sometimes you got to drag your kids kicking and screaming to your house. Because what they're going to remember, they're not going to think it was abuse. When they're 25 and they're looking back over their childhood and they're laughing with you and playing games with you, they're going to be like, remember that time I ain't want to come. You was like, no, you coming. Yes. You forced me on that vacation. You forced me to play that game with you. Yes. That's what they're going to remember. Yes. But in the event you let them go, in the event that you're like, I ain't going to do that, they'll figure it out. What they're going to figure out is their dad didn't care enough to come get them. And now you scarred a child because of your pride. And then you want to push it back on the mom. No, that's you. Even if the mom was saying, oh, dad's horrible, or whatever the mom could have been saying, the best proof that you're not the person that the mom is saying you are is you being present. Your initiative. Is you showing up.
Take the initiative.
And so, if that looks like going to court and fighting to change the parenting plan, your child, you don't get to blame that the mom is doing something when you ain't doing nothing to combat it. You ain't showing up to the school. Okay, your mom won't let you see me. Let me see you. I'm coming to that school to have lunch with you. You're not doing those things so the child can look at the mom and be like, what are you talking about? Daddy was just trying to be at my school. Daddy was just at my, my cheerleading competition. Daddy was just at my whatever. Because you got your arms folded like, well, if they don't love me, I ain't gonna love them. You sound stupid. And I'm hype about this right now because I've watched it. I've watched this happen from a child. And it's just like, nah, but to see it in so many lives, I see it every single day. And I have to tell my man, they want to come back and get the child support adjusted. You ain't seen your kid in how long? You're okay with getting a child support modification and you're not visiting your child? Well, hey, mama, you sound dumb.
Get it together.
You sound dumb. And so you don't want to be have adult children who don't want nothing to do with you because when I was 16 and I needed a father, you decided something my mama said was more important than you being in my life.
Yeah. Sounds like regrets to me. That's one thing you don't want to have. You do not want to have those regrets.
You don't want, if you were inclined to, if you really want to see your kid, go see your kid.
Amen.
Don't let someone else rob you of the ability to parent. Don't let the child because this is why I started. The child may say, I ain't coming. You get in your car and you drive to that child and you have that argument with that child and you make that child, okay, cool. Things may happen or whatever, but you do it every other weekend.
Hold emphasis on child.
You do it during your parenting time.
Absolutely.
You impose yourself on that child's life. Because if you do not, you have a child, because it's a child who doesn't understand that you love them. And you think when they turn 25, you're going to be able to come back and get those years from when they were 13, and you'll never be able to get it back. And it will take, and let me say this, you know, I'm a lover of Christ, but it will take God to heal that, because the scar of an absent parent, baby, that's a scar. And I'm going to tell you that Kennedy told me recently about her biological father. He calls me up, and I did a reel about this. He calls me up before Kennedy went on a little externship. And he was like, I just had another baby. This man still having babies the whole time. I'm living my best life. Anyway, he said, I just had another baby. And it made me really value being a parent or something. You got a whole 23-year-old son, and you having a newborn baby made you value being a parent. You got an entire 23-year-old son. I smack you. Like, I'm upset right now because you called my phone. I raised these kids.
Absolutely.
You called my phone and said, I had another baby. It made me value being a parent. So he said, I want to reach out to the kids, but they don't really answer when I call. Because he was calling them. And they would say, Mom, I don't really want to talk to him because he act like they get excited because they still their dad. They get excited and they say, but when we start talking, he'll say, how are you? I'm like, oh my God, we're great, because my kids are great. And they always got something great going on because I'm their mama and God is their father.
Excellent.
And they say, whenever they start talking about the good things going on with them, he would say, okay, I got to go. Call me if you need me.
Oh, wow.
And so I'd just be like, but if y'all were doing bad, he want to come rescue. But he's mad because y'all haven't missed a beat. So he calls me up and he tells me that he has this new baby, and nothing to the baby. I don't mind the baby.
Yeah.
But he wants to be a better father, and he said he was going to start calling Kennedy. And so I said, well, you gotta, and I told him what they told me. I said, for years they've been telling me that when you call, before I could get it out, and this is how you know that man knew he was doing wrong. Before I could get it out, he said I would shut him down. So you were aware that you were doing this. That's a problem for me because these are my kids, and I'll fight you about my kids. So I said, yeah, don't do that to them. They deserve more than that. He says, cool. So when Kennedy goes to her externship, she comes home, and I'm driving, and I never asked her about it, never whatever. So we're riding one day, and I looked at her and I said, has your dad contacted you? And I call him by his first name because they got a daddy. And I said, has he contacted you? And she said, oh, yeah, a lot. And I was like, did you talk to him? She said, no. She said, I never answered, never responded to a text. And I looked at her, and I was just, in all sincerity, like, well, Katie, he said he was trying to be a better person. And my child looked me square in the face and said, I don't have to be a part of that. She said, I forgive him, but I don't have to be a part of him trying to be a better person. And this is a girl whose mother encouraged the relationship, but you didn't show up. And so now she's grown, and you think that, oh, she's grown, I'm going to show her something now. Whole time she got a dad. Whole time she's solid in who she is. And she doesn't have to be a part of you trying to be a better person. And so if you take anything from this podcast, show up for your kids, even when they're telling you they don't want you there. It might suck, it might hurt, but you're the adult in the situation. They didn't ask to be here. They didn't ask for the relationship to split. They didn't ask for any of that. So you might get hung up on, you might get blocked, but this person is not your peer. So you don't get to be like, they don't want to do with me, I ain't gonna do with them. You sound crazy. You don't take that position with your child and then think somehow it's going to come back around because if it wasn't for their mama. Because if you show up, they'll know their mama was lying. At 13, at 15, at 18, at 22, they'll know their mama was lying. So that's from my personal life, but that's from, it's prevalent, like just when, and I don't want to say black, white, because it happens I have all types of clients, and it is a thing that I recognize. And I tell my clients, I tell my male clients, like, yo, you think, oh, when they get out their mama house, they gonna see, what are they gonna see? That you didn't show up? I'm confused. That you came to court to reduce your child support? I'm confused. That you got a new baby and you're giving all this attention to this new child, and you're like, it was your mama? Nah. Because there are things, when they become adults, guess what they're gonna learn? That you could have taken mama back to court for a child custody modification. That's what they're gonna learn. They're gonna learn that there was a way for you. You don't get to blame my mom, who was always there. Yes, she may have been a mess, but guess who was there? My mama.
Yep.
And so you staying away is not gonna make it better. And I don't do a lot of talking to men, but I gotta talk to men because you are needed. I need you to understand that your presence is needed. Even if your child is like, stay away from me, your presence is needed. And so and that's a whole nother topic, but I think that there is such a decline in just morality and values amongst our young people because men have decided, I ain't gotta put up with that. I'm protecting my peace. You sound crazy. My son, my 23-year-old son, told me the other day he was talking to the Lord about what it takes to be a man. And he said sometimes the Lord told him, sometimes you have to put your peace aside for the protection of the people that you were designated to protect. So you might not have no peace. You might not have no peace making sure that they do. And so you don't get to be like, well, I'm home crying too. So is your 16-year-old daughter. You sound crazy. Like, you sound wildly crazy. And then you wondering why her mama over there let her do that. You don't get to parent. You don't get to make parenting decisions when you haven't tried to actively parent. And you don't get to blame the mama because there are things in place to keep you from being kept away from your kid. And that's what that's look from a family law attorney's perspective.
Yeah, okay.
But it breaks my heart.
Yeah, no, I think that it was very necessary for you to speak to the men on this one because
there goes another black woman breaking black men down.
An absent father goes a long way, and especially if you're absent based on your decision,
right?
Like you said, if the mother is keeping you away, that's a whole
and by
nother
keeping
story.
You away, I want to be clear what I mean by that, because telling you can't come to the house ain't keeping you away. It is mom has concealed her address, because that's the thing. Because as long as you know her address and you have a parenting plan, you can show up with the police and get that child.
Yes.
And if you don't have a parenting plan because you haven't legitimated, so you can go and legitimate, you can show up to police and get that child. So I am not, when I say mom has kept you away, I want to be very clear about what that means. It does not mean mom saying you can't see the child. It does not mean mom trying to alienate the child. It means that you don't know where your child is. That's the only pass you get. And then you call Crystal, right, we're gonna find that child.
Hey.
So and there are other attorneys that will help you find your child if you want to be present in the child's life. Like, I got a mom at 17 right now, and I'm talking to her every day. I'm like, baby, you paying me? She's like, Chris, he gotta know I'm fighting for him. And he will. She's paying me a ton of money, and I'm like, I don't know that we prevail in court because he is so old. And if he tells the judge, I don't want to see my mama, the judge is going to be like, well, we'll let you visit at your discretion. And at 17 years old, his discretion may be, I don't want to see my mama. But you know what? He's not going to think at 27
exactly.
that his mama didn't want him.
That she didn't fight. Right. I love it.
And so and if you are a woman in this position, like I said, most of the women are going after their kids, because it's just, most of the time it's like, women giving up their kids for the most part is dad had, was more stable, was whatever. So I was okay with that, But men, it's just, in my experience, and I have a lot of experience because I've been a family law attorney for a long time. And so this is not me talking to my homegirls and looking at their experience or even looking at my personal life. This is literally me dealing with people every day and my colleagues dealing with people every day and watching it. And I'm just like, yo, that's so sad. That is so sad. And so if you're making that parenting mistake, do better and do better now, right? Because you ain't gonna have a lot of time. Kids grow up really, really, really fast.
Yeah, time does fly when you're raising kids. It really does.
And if you're a mom, absent the dad abusing the child, and you're keeping the child away from the dad, or not physically, because sometimes mom don't physically hold them back. Like, you can come get them, but you have talked so badly about the dad the whole 2 weeks between the visitation. Then now the child don't want to go see the dad. Because mom has said all these horrible things.
Manipulated the mind.
And even if dad is horrible, like dad could be horrible, let the children find that on their own. That's not a conversation you need to tell. My kids need to know the truth. Shut up. Are you telling them all the truth about everything you've done? No. But you want them to think that you are so in love with them that, like, look, I'm trying to protect you. Whole time you ruining them. Whole time you're teaching them someone doesn't love them. They're not worthy of someone's love, because that's where they're taking away from it. That they're not worthy of that love. They're not taking away that you're so great. They're clinging to you because you're all they got, but then they're still that hole because you think they're not wanting their daddy. Stop being weird. I just got... Like, I see it all. And we're talking about parenting. We're talking about mistakes in parenting. And these are mistakes that I have seen. And I've seen the results of those mistakes. And it's not pretty. And you can, if you trust and believe in my Lord, regardless of whether you do or not, I'm going to tell you this. You ain't got to believe for it to be true. Because there will be a judgment day.
Oh, God. Yes, there will.
And where you were entrusted with children, and you became untrustworthy with God's babies, you're going to have to answer for that. And you don't get to tell the Lord, his mama wouldn't let me see him. That ain't a thing God is going, because he set up laws to make sure that you don't have that excuse. So if you even remotely care about what your life looks like on Judgment Day, fix that thing.
I think that's a good segue to close it.
Look, Lisa said, "Shut up." This girl going talking out. Look, I'm a parent. I tell people all the time, like, I'm a mother. I've done a lot of amazing things, but ain't nothing better than being a mother. I have been a mother, and I've been a mother to 6 children.
Yes,
like that's. I take it so seriously.
And as you should. We are dealing with souls.
Yes.
We're dealing with humans.
And you're responsible for that.
We're responsible for it. To provide and give them the love and the care and the nurturing and everything that they need. And if there's both parents that are alive and living,
that's a blessing.
Then that's a blessing to them. And should nobody sway either one, mother or father, away from the kid. It's all about the kid, guys.
It's about the child. And if you were, like I said, you feel like I'm teaching them the truth, or you feel like I'm showing them who their daddy is. First of all, you could be a horrible husband, a horrible boyfriend, and a wonderful father. Like, that's what I've tried to tell my clients. Like, he did this to me. Okay, baby, sweetie, yes, he cheated on you. Divorce is the remedy for that. You're not getting sole, legal, and physical custody because this man cheated on you, because he brought his girlfriend in the house. Even because he hit you, and I am not condoning adultery or abuse.
This is a whole other episode, guys.
I'm not condoning any of that, but you don't get to be like, now if he sexually abused this child, by all means, you're never seeing him again, and I stand on that. But things like he did something to you, so what? So who cares? Anyway, we love y'all.
We love y'all. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you. And look, y'all got to tune in again. We'll be back for episode 3. Thank y'all for episode 2. Thank y'all for just chiming in, commenting, retweeting, following, supporting.
Staying positive.
Yes. And thank you for
listening.
Love. To our fake parenting podcast. We're a real Christian podcast.
We're just Crystal and Alisa, black girling.
Black girling. Look, we'll see y'all tomorrow on Black Girl Tuesdays, so we can tell y'all how we black girl.
Yes.
See y'all later.
Peace.